Welcome to Visibility by Design podcast with your host, Juliette Stapleton. In this show, I want to help you combine your marketing strategies and your human design potential so you can show up, stand out, and attract your perfect clients with confidence and ease. Are you ready? Enjoy the show. Hi guys, welcome back to Visibility by Design. I am so excited today because get ready to be ignited. After this conversation, you might feel that you want to go and do something significant in your day, in your life. That's how I always feel when I'm talking to manifestors. We have an amazing manifestor today. Let me introduce you to Damien Bohler. And Damien is not only just, he's a manifestor, which is great, but he's also a 4-1, which is a very rare profile in human design and very, very special one. And I'm really looking forward to talking about that. So you're a 4-1 splenic ego manifestor, with the will center defined.
Yeah, the ego is connected to the throat and a split definition. So the spleen is connected to the root. So I feel like I'm actually an ego manifestor, even though technically splenic authority because of the hierarchy. But they feel like different parts of me, actually. Like there's two different parts kind of functioning. Yeah.
This is so interesting. And maybe I'm jumping ahead here, but how does this work then with your decision making? Do you still prioritize the spleen, or how do you work with the decision making?
Spleen first. Spleen is like monitoring the pulse all the time. I find that the spleen really says no. It doesn't say yes. It's yes to everything. Sometimes it's a big yes. Sometimes it's a little yes. But I feel like I'm just running on the current of yes until I get a no. So I have to listen for that no. But I also need to, especially if there's something ongoing about the decision, like if there's going to be an ongoing showing up, if there's going to be any commitment, if there's going to be any responsibility or any accountability to other people, to processes, to anything going on, I need to check with the ego, because that's where my energy is going to come from. Do I have enough energy to go all the way? Because with a defined ego, not like breaking agreements hurts. Like it hurts. And it feels very uncomfortable. So usually when I say I agree to something, there are agreements that I know I'm probably not going to fulfill in this life, and I'm going to carry them to my deathbed. Like they'll feel unfulfilled inside me. They're sitting there. And I would go and fix them if I could, like they're just there as weight. Yeah.
I love that what you just shared. I have a completely open will center, completely open. And one of the things that I've embraced is, it's sort of like, oh, well. Yeah. Oh, well, the conditioning is like, you need to be, if you're a polite person, you have to, follow through. Nowadays, it's a no. If my spleen says no, it's a no. And it's okay for me to cancel. Like I could have probably postponed this and caused you so much hurt, and I wouldn't even know. I'd be like, that's grand. When the timing is right, we will connect. Everything's going to be fine. So this is so interesting, and it's a very valuable information. So guys, when you're listening, depending if you have a, undefined or defined will center, these things that those are very important things to notice and be aware of, I think. So this is fantastic share. Let's go back to the beginning now. Let's go back. I want to talk about you. So Damien, your domain is relationships. At least this is something that I know you and your content, and I follow you on Facebook. We connected about a year ago. I think I just did an interview with Fabrice Boulanger, and we did the interview on Lines for this podcast. And then, you kind of come in, you did some sort of collaborations. And I remember watching you ever since, So now we're recording the new season, and I'm so excited having you here. And I will tell you why. There's a secret why, because you're the one who said something about the types in one of the collaborations that you did with Fabrice. You likened the types to animals.
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
Oh, that just stuck in me, and I just loved it. I loved how you said that projectors were like cats. Does that, am I yes, projectors were like cats, and that's exactly how we are. And manifesting generators were like working dogs, you know, ready to jump and ready to do generators, big animals. I literally now meeting a generator and working with a generator, I can feel this steady animal energy like an elephant or a whale. And then I loved what you said about the manifestors. And the manifestors, you said, are the monkeys, and they come down from the trees and fuck shit up. And I was sold at that. You had me at fuck shit up, basically. And so this is, and it's really, really good. And this is where, you know, I just love, and it's probably what you, maybe unintentionally, but you took a very complex idea of like, what is this energy type? How do you understand who they are and how they are? And I think that this analogy just did it for me. It was a big click. And I loved it. But anyway, so other things that I really enjoy is the understanding of gene keys and human design that you have. It's really in depth. And guys, if you want to go to YouTube, just literally put Damien's name into it, and you will see a lot of collaborations you did with Fabrice Bollinger, analyzing different charts. I loved I think the one that I really loved was Russell Brand one. That was fun. Interesting.
Russell Brand was very obvious, super obvious.
Oh, it was so good. It just gives me shivers even to think about it. And I love him. So it was very, very interesting for you to discuss all these things, especially to do with addiction and things like that. Guys, just go. I'm not going to reveal things. And also another one that's really interesting. It's about the leaders with 5-1 profile, where you went through, you know, Putin and Stalin and Zilchenko. Hitler and what's the Chinese guys? Mao. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And it was so interesting as well. So, you know, there's just so much, there's a huge depth of knowledge, but also what you're doing here and what you're doing for your own business is relationships. Tell me a little bit about, you know, like about your business, about why you're so into the relationships domain. And also from the online visibility perspective, how are you approaching your business as a manifestor for one?
So this is a complex answer, the why am I into relationships? So I'm just gonna try and like break it down real fast. Kind of my perspective. My background is actually in environmental science, and I was a permaculture teacher for a while. And I've held a vision and a desire for community for a long time. When I was 18 years old, I went to visit some family in the south of France, and they lived in a tiny village in the mountains. And I was like, people can live like this? I grew up in the city of Sydney. And ever since then, it's like this birthed this experience, this thing in me that felt like it was present even before that experience. But this like need to create that, to create some kind of way, like my life where I want to live, where I want to die, is in a community of people that kind of are living closer to the land in a more organismic relationship with each other, living out their unique designs, but being able to collaborate really synergistically, like synarchy, synergy, you know, syntropic, like very evolutionary. And what I realized when I started going down the permaculture routes and spending time in community is the places where people really struggle the most is relationships. You know, communities break down because the relationships fail. We have the highest divorce rates ever in the world. You know, most people spend most of their time fixated on how to get a romantic relationship or how to make it work. Most of our movies are about it. And so I felt like there was a point where, and I mean, for me too, I was very fascinated about relationship. I wanted to have a deep relationship with somebody. And there was a point where it kind of like clicked, where I made a decision. I can remember it internally of like, that's a leverage point. So it's actually a point of leverage to how do I pivot supporting relationships to become more empowered and liberate the energy that's normally consumed by either obsessing about them or being in conflict in them, to be more generative. How do I leverage this, which is a hot topic for revenue, so that I can actually start to create university and actually on the ground community structures for this. So that's kind of what leads me to focus on relationships right now. It's fascinating to me. The line 1 in me gets really interested by things, and when I do, I go very deep, and I want to understand how it works at the deepest level I possibly can. So I'm still very much in relationships, but that's where I'm at right now. At some point, it will pivot to something else. There's a whole thing that I want to unfold, and then actually I want to maybe I'll just speak about the 4-1 for a second as well.
Oh, I'd love that. Yes, please.
Yeah. So the 4-1, the way that I understand the 4-1 is they call it often fixed fate, and it's what's called the juxtaposition cross. So it's between the personal and the transpersonal. It's got like a 1 foot in either world. It's like the bridge between the personal karmic, of which you as a 1-3 are the most personal of the profiles, to the transpersonal, all the way up to the 6-3 being the most transpersonal of the profiles. It's the split in the middle. It's neither one nor the other. It's the only profile like that. And they call it fixed fate because what it's here to do is the line 1 is the foundation. The line 1 is all about the foundation, especially when it's in the design. It's about the foundation. What is the foundation? What is the foundation? Foundation. The line 4 is about externalization and basically convincing people to adopt the idea. That's what the 4 is about. It's like, how do I convince you to adopt the idea? So the 4-1 is about, how do I convince you to adopt this foundation? The foundation being the thing that's inside of me that I want to understand and bring to the world. So how do I convince the world to adopt this? And as a 4-1, my reach is, and this is, we were talking before the show about 5-1s. As a 4-1, my reach is limited to friends and friends of friends. That's about the reach extent of a 4. The 4 is the network, right? My network is friends and friends of friends, and that's about as far as I can go, right? The 5-1s are very interesting because they're here to universalize a foundation. Doesn't have to be their own foundation. For the 4-1, it has to be their foundation. For the 5-1, it could be a 4-1's foundation, right? Yeah. But they hear about their reach is much bigger. You think about someone like Jordan Peterson and the massive level of reach he's had in the world, right? As a 5-1. So fixed fate profile, there was that seed inside of me. This is what I'm here to do. And like, that's it. I'm on that train and I have to go this way. And there's not really anywhere else to go. And so that's kind of my experience of what I'm up to here.
This is fascinating. Actually, one of the big, the point where I see people's faces change and they don't like what they're hearing is when I'm talking to line 4 and I'm starting to say, hey, you can't market to strangers. It's not marketing to strangers. And just now you spoke with such conviction saying, I can only go friends of friends. And that's it. I'd love you to talk a little bit more about this, because I think it's a concept that when you get your head around it, it can be very empowering, because otherwise, people are like, well, but I don't have this ability. I don't have this, what am I going to do? I can't run ads, this kind of things. But there is a way to see it.
Yeah. I mean, we can totally run ads. I just get other people to run ads for me, right? So right now in one of the campaigns that I've got going on, I have an ads manager, and my ads manager, I forget what her profile is. And then my marketing guy, who's a 5-1, they're working on the ads. I don't have much to do with them at all, right? I did a bit of the copy for them. So their energy is kind of behind that. But at the same time, it's like, friends of friends, right? Friends of friends can be very big. If I have 8,000 followers on Instagram, for example, friends of friends is like 60, 70, 80, 90, 100,000 people, right? That's a lot of people, right? So what I do is that I try to be as engaged as possible as I can with my profile. I love every single comment. I reply back to comments that have questions, deep questions in them. I keep engaged. I allow myself to be intimate with the audience, right? So they can feel me. And even if I'm not writing back to someone in person, like one person can watch me writing to another and they're going to feel, oh, there's intimacy. I'm close to this person. I have a newsletter. I call it love letters. It's like I write personally, right? And so there is that sense of contact. There is a sense of contact, and I have an approachability, right? The 4-1 is so interesting. The 4 profile, I love hearing Ra talk about it, is the 4-1 in particular is so friendly, right? Their external is friendly, but I'm also a manifestor, so I'm repelling at the same time. I give off a very confusing aura, right? Very, very easy to feel close to. It's disarmingly easy to feel close to with the 4-1. because I'm here to convince you about something. But if I was to convince you about it without being friendly, you'd be like, whoa, 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 that's too much. So I've got this 4, very personable, charming, friendly, but I'm actually here to convince you to believe something. That's what I'm up to.
That is interesting. So as a manifestor, I actually work closely with another 4-1. I'm so blessed that, but she is a projector. She's, I think that she is a self-projected projector. And for her, she's like, why am I so fixated on things? And when I'm trying to talk to people, because, she's not into human design, so she doesn't understand the, wait for invitation into advice maybe. Yep. But as a manifestor, it's very interesting to me. So how do you get around this, because I even feel your dense aura as we speak now. Like, I adore you, honestly. I've been watching you. I know about this intimate, like, I see you replying. I can see that you're a very friendly guy. I love watching your content. And still there is this aura. Even when you said to me a year ago, we should do a podcast, it was like, whoo, it's like a barrier, because, you kind of went straight away deep. You didn't like inform me or, didn't take your time talking about this. And I felt, how do you what's your personal strategy around it?
Well, the aura is designed to protect me on purpose. It's like if my aura didn't keep people away, my friendliness, my openness, my availability, I would be completely inundated. People would reach out to me all the time. So it's like people have to really put some effort in to reach out to me, right? I do one-on-one coaching, for example, but I don't have many spots and I just don't advertise it, and it's only the people who really want it reach out, So it's like that's there for a purpose. The repelling aura is there for a purpose, right? It's not a problem to me. I'm not concerned with repelling people, because it's like when it's the right time and when they're in the right interest, then they will come. They'll just show up, and it happens all the time. I'll be like, I need someone in my team. I start chewing on, like, I need this person to do this thing, and then they show up, and they're like, hey, and usually they're like, hey, I don't know why, but I feel this desire to work with you. Do you need anyone? Like, it happens all the time.
Wow, it's amazing. I can resonate, because last year I took all my deeper offers off my website, because again, I want to be invited. I want people to come to me and say, and I want to know who they are so I can decide if they're correct. And for that, they need to go through some of the smaller one-off offers, and I can then kind of sample if they're correct or incorrect for me. And that really worked. So I can totally hear. And it also feeds, one of the messages, especially through this podcast, one of the messages that consistently comes back is that you can create the business and marketing, the model, the tactics, the everything around your unique, authentic you. Even it's not even about design itself if you don't know it, but it's about choosing and doing things the way that it feels convenient and aligned to you. And what you just described is absolutely perfect. And thank you as well for reframing the manifestor's aura, this whole thing about repelling, because it's a repelling word in itself, repelling. And and I know manifestors just get upset about this, like, what am I to do? But you have a completely different view on this. It's here to protect me.
Yeah. I mean, when I was younger, it was much harder. When I was younger, I was really confused of why I was always left out, why I was never invited to things. Nobody invites. Everybody assumes a manifestor's busy. Unconsciously assume a manifestor's busy. He's busy. He's well occupied. At the moment in my life, I actually am. But for large periods of my life, I wasn't. But people would assume that I'm busy. I'm fine. I'm okay. Everything's all right. I have a younger brother who's a projector. And when I was growing up, nothing would happen. It would come to the weekend and nothing would happen. And the only way I would get a social life was if I went out and made it happen. I had to get off on the phone and call people and be like, what's happening? I had to invite myself to parties. I still have to sometimes. I have a generator partner. So now the invites come to her or through her aura instead. It softens things a lot more. But my brother, people would literally his friends would drive to our house and drag him out of his room. Like, he's like, I can't be bothered going out. And they'd be like, come on, come out. Projector, constantly being invited, because he just chilled until he was invited. He didn't move, I'm like,
how sweet.
I'm all agitated. Yeah. He didn't know, but somehow it worked for him. And I'm all agitated being like, nobody's interested in me. But now I realize it's actually to protect me. So, I have to make it happen if I want it to happen. but I have that ability that I can make stuff happen if I want to. I can actually make things happen.
But that's what you are. And even as a manifestor, you are here to make things happen. You are here to initiate. You're that sparkle on the match. So,
and I mean, it's so like, I watch it sometimes, just the little subtleties of it. For example, being like at a social setting. I remember being at a friend's gathering once, and she was like, they were all sitting outside, and she was like, it's really cold. She's a generator, bless her. And she's like, it's really cold inside. Maybe we should all go inside. And everyone just kept talking and nothing happened. And I was like, right, let's go inside. And everyone got up and went inside. I actually stayed outside. I didn't want to go inside, but I heard that she wanted it. So I just like made everyone move. And that's all I had to do was like, I think we should all go inside, guys. And then everyone was just like moving along as if that was the normal, natural thing. It was like, okay. But when she said it, nothing happened.
I love it. I love it. Sometimes when the transits are sort of making me into a manifestor, and things like that happen. I remember one day like that, we were standing in the queue in the airport, and there was some sort of very dodgy people, and nobody wanted to come in and queue onto the gate because these dodgy people were like drunk and sitting in front of me. And I just said, well, somebody has to. And I went first, and immediately the queue formed. And this, I can hear this, you do something and you just initiate, everybody just follows. And
I've noticed this really uncanny thing. And I used to live in Asia for a long time, in Thailand. I noticed it there, and I noticed it here too. I will go into an empty restaurant to eat, and I'll sit down. I used to go into empty restaurants, and I'd sit down by myself. And within 20 minutes before I finished my meal, it'd be half full.
Wow.
It'd be empty, and I'd go in, and then suddenly it'd be full of people. And it happened so often, and only just occurred to me again talking about this, of like, that's what's happening, right? I'm like initiating. They're like, oh, here's a safe place to eat. You can do it here. So yeah.
That is amazing. Guys, if you're a manifestor and you're listening to this, take this whole thing on board. You can make your life so much more fun, and being aware of these things, and creating magic in your life by initiating like this. There's so much fun to it. And by the way, if you are listening and you own a restaurant, now you know who to have as a favorite customer to on a quiet night that you can invite over for a free meal or something like that. That is really funny. Another thing I want to talk about the manifestors, and it's all about the energy level. Even though you do have the motor to your throat, but in terms of consistent energy, you still have an undefined sacral. So how do you manage consistency? Are you even bothered about consistency in your business? The whole topic of consistency, I'd love to hear your stance on it.
So it's good that you talked about this, because I kind of wanted to talk about this too. I was already feeling it, like talk about the downsides so I was talking about some like benefits of being a manifestor. The downsides is like, like this initiation thing only comes when it's time. It's not like I can initiate whenever I want. It's like it has to come from inside. It's not like I can't mentally go, right, I want to make this thing happen and then make it happen. It actually comes as an upwelling from inside. So I have to make space inside myself for the lightning to strike. It feels like lightning. There are times where sometimes I can feel my ego, my manifestor really strong, and it's almost like I feel energy crackling off my body. I'm like, oh my God, I'm on fire today. Like I'll get online, I'll write a post and it'll get 1,000 likes or something like that. I can feel it. It's like, right, I'm on right now. But it runs out. Like that energy turns on, and there's no consistency to it. There's no rhyme or reason to it. So I want to answer two more pieces around that, which is quite interesting. Just thinking which way to go first. I talk about the energy is cyclical, but it's not rhythmic, which is interesting, meaning that there doesn't seem to be a fixed rhythm to it. The generator has a sacral pulse that is rhythmical, right? There are certain channels. I imagine if manifestors had certain rhythmical channels, they might be more. If they had the I can't remember the channel all the way on the left from the sacral. Oh no, that'd be sacral. They're all rhythmical, but it's cyclical, meaning that it ebbs and it pulses. Mm-hmm. So there are ways in which when the manifestor energy turns on, and there's like a lot of energy, there's like, right, I'm on, let's go, let's do things, and then it turns off, and it's like things get really hard, and usually like energy completely caves in. So that's kind of like the normal thing, but there's no necessarily like, it doesn't go on any kind of cadence. So for me, for example, when I'm launching, a product, usually right before I launch, I crash hard. And like, it's like my energy gathers itself and I become pretty useless sometimes for a day or two. There are days, you know, my partner knows them as well now, where I don't get out of bed all day. I go, today's a bed day, and I spend the day in bed. And I'm just like, I don't want to do anything. And it's not about resting. It's not about like, I need to sleep or nap. It's just like, I actually need to, it is about resting, but not about like physical body resting. It's like, I need to give my ego a rest. The ego needs to stop working for a minute. And then it comes back on. And sometimes it can come back on in an hour. Sometimes it takes a day. Sometimes it takes 2 days, right? Then there's another interesting thing is that I believe, this is my own personal perspective, that I think that there can be really long cycles of this too. So the manifestor can be off for years, right? I felt like I was off for years with nothing on, right? There was nothing, just little pulses of initiation. And then recently, in the past couple of years, it's like my vision kicked in, you know, it's around Uranus return, moving from South Node to North Node was about that time. Suddenly purpose kicked in, and I feel that I'm in a very long cycle of on. And I have little pulses of off, you know, an hour or two, half a day, 1 day, not more than 1 day usually, maybe maximum 2 of off. But I'm on for a lot longer than I've ever been in any time in my life. But I have the sense, the feeling that this will probably last 2 or 3 years, and I'll probably turn off for months. Like there'll be a point where it's like done, and I'll have months where I'll be like, I'm done. I actually need to step away from everything for a little bit. I can feel that coming. But it's like, there's something big, you know, it's an initiation, but it's a big initiation, you know. Initiation is like giving birth to something, but it's like, it's a big thing that I'm giving birth to. So there's like, I'm like still doing it, you know, it's like a 4 or 5 year labor, right? So that's kind of the energy thing. And so it's like, it feels like it's not fully in my hands. You know, it's like partly in God's hands. Whether I'm on or off is in God's hands in some way.
And how do you prepare for when it's going to turn off? Do you have any strategies for yourself?
Well, I'm working on it. I'm getting better. It was really interesting. Before this call, I was sitting at my computer. My partner, our living room is just here. My partner was watching TV. And I was trying to write an email, and I was just like, I can't anymore. I'm off. And so I just went and curled up with her, and I'm like, okay, I need this evening off, and I need part of tomorrow off. And in the past, it would be like, if I don't listen to that, if I keep going, what will happen is I'll crash. My ego will turn off, and it's painful because all of a sudden I got nothing. When the ego turns off, when the manifestor turns off, it's literally like the feeling is like I'm never going to be able to do anything ever again. It's terrifying. It's like I've got no power and it's never coming back. That's what it feels like for a little bit. And then it comes back, you know. My partner always reminds me, it'll come back. And I'm like, oh God, it's never coming back, you know. My ego turns off and suddenly my spleen gets really loud. And the spleen's all about fear, right? And I have gate 32 and 48 as hanging gates. So fear of failure and fear of inadequacy both get really loud when my ego turns off. Suddenly I'm just like feeling waves of inadequacy and constant fear of failure. And it's like, oh God, I just got to manage my anxiety. So I've been learning to like listen to the sign of when it's time to turn off and be like, okay, and just turn off and trust. I'm getting ready for the next pulse. And if I turn off, there's going to be more energy. If I try and push through this, it's going to get more and more diluted. It's going to get weaker and weaker. My initiation is going to get less and less strong, and nothing good is going to happen except I'm going to feel bad.
Exactly. I can really relate, although there's a slight difference in what you're describing with the energy turning off. As a projector, you know, I also work in bursts, and I can create so much when I'm working in those bursts. But then there could be a situation where I get really inspired, and I'm working on something, but I haven't finished it, and I go to bed and I wake up in the morning and it's just nothing to give. It's off, and it's just nothing to give. And I, just like you know, I learned to be aware of these patterns, although it works differently for me. It maybe can last 3 weeks, it never really lasts more than a few weeks. And I do now consciously take so much time off. And I don't mean lying in bed, but I think it's very individual what we do to rest and to recharge. For me, it could be just like doing things for me and not doing things for my business, for example. And that kind of recharges me in my creativity. And sometimes it is just vegging and watching Netflix all day or something and doing nothing, you know. But it's very interesting, because if you're a non-energy type like that, if you don't have a sacral to rely on, it's so important that you trust. You said that, trust. It's a big word, capital T. It's so important that you trust that things will work out. They will come back. The energy will come back. You do need to recharge, and it's not, and the most important message for me as a marketer is that you are not going to miss out on anything. Trust me. Take time off. Take time off. It's going to be, as you said, nothing's good is going to happen if you continue pushing. And that's also the lesson that I've learned as well in my business. So this is a really, really good message. You mentioned that you have a team. So talk to me about, you know, have you ever tried running your business on yourself, or was it a conscious decision straight away to have a team on board?
No, it started by myself. It was actually working really well when I was doing it by myself. I started, I mean, I'd been in a business with a team earlier. I started a business with 3 friends, and that failed, partly because one was out and 2 of them were generators, and they were in a couple, and they wouldn't kind of give me the position of authority, and it just kind of imploded. But then I started this current business kind of by accident. I didn't intend to. I'd left Sydney during COVID, and I was doing 2 master's degrees, and I quit them both, and I quit my job and bought a van and just went up to stay on a farm near where I live now. And I was like, I kind of need to make some money. And I decided to do an online course on authentic relating, something that I've been doing as a hobby. I've been facilitating for almost 10 years at the time. So I knew what I was doing, but I didn't expect to, like, I just thought I'll just make an online course and see what happens. And I sold out in 3 days. And so I just kept going. And I just did the next one and the next one and the next one. I did that for almost 2 years. I sold them out. And then I started going, okay, well, I'm going to train facilitators, and okay, I'm going to like start a business. And okay, it just like kind of kept happening. And people would show up and be like, hey, I want to be involved. And I'd be like, okay, how do I figure out how to do this? And I've learned some lessons there. It's definitely hasn't been always easy. But I feel like there's this part of me that doesn't want to lead. You know, I'm like, I just really don't want to lead that much, but it's in my design to lead. It's like the Gene Key 21 is in my radiance and in my vocation, and it's part of my Manifestor channel. And this is the gift of authority, right? And so it's really about being the voice of the tribe. It's being the elected authority. And the 21 is kind of like that, I feel. The 21 in the shadow is very controlling, but in the gift, it's kind of like people want to feel me in authority, right? People just kind of tend to want to feel me in the authority position. I've tried to give away leadership a bunch of times, and it doesn't work very well. So I've been learning to, how do I sit as the central node in an expanding organism, or as a central node. My desire is to become more and more organizational, more and more organismic, operating more and more from synarchy, from a type of distributed network of hierarchy. And at the same time, I'm the 4-1, I have the foundation. There's this like, okay, I kind of like have to build the structure to do that. And so that's kind of what I feel like I'm here to do, is to build the infrastructure for that. So working in a team is something I'm still learning a lot about. And how do I do it in a very soft and synergistic way? And that's what I'm always trying to promote. How do we work towards synergy? How do we work towards synergy? Which is also the gift of the 45, which is the other side of the 21. It's the other side of that channel. So we have authority and synergy, right? And this is kind of my Manifestor channel. This is what it's supposed to do when it's healthy. You know, aligned with a 4-1. My vocation is also a line 1. So I'm all about, I have the most line 1s of any line in my chart. You know, I'm mostly line 1s and line 4s. And so there is this very strong urge to like build the foundation from the foundation up and tell people about it. So that's really what I'm about. And then, people who touch the foundation in some way, I keep saying the foundation, but it's like I feel like it's a vision, it's a chord of a vision that's held by many. You know, we talk about a fractal, right? It's like many people hold that vision or that chord, and it's not necessarily mine, but I feel like what the 4-1 does is it's like a rally point. It's an orienting point where people can go, oh, that's what it feels like, or that's something that can help make it happen. You know, as a manifestor here to initiate that, that's kind of what it feels like. So my team is largely people who have done my work and want to get more involved, and that's generally what forms. Those are the people who are interested. I generally hire internally only. I hire people who have done my work. I generally they come to me first, except for my there's actually the two people in my no, that's not true. They come to me first. Some of the most solid people in my team had to be initiated. My close marketing man is a 5-1 projector. I invited him. I plucked him out. I saw him. I could feel his potential. He was very new, and I was like, "You have a lot of potential." So I was like, "You want to come and do some stuff?" Yeah, I don't know if that answered it, but yeah.
Yes, no, but it's really interesting. For me, it's just interesting for you to even talk out loud about it, and your relationships with the team, and how it happens, and I can see even with the line 4, that you're saying they have to do my work first, so there is this relationships is very the influence that happens through them being in your network, and not even just on a peripheral, kind of deeper. I can really see that, and I can understand that as well. I'm a super lone wolf. I just recently and also there's other things in my design that just, if I'm in a team, it spits me out. I don't really do well as an adult, when in jobs, before I started my own business, I was bullied, and I never understood why, but it's just this energy, so I do everything around what I can do myself, which is really enjoyable as well, because as a 1-3, I've generated so many skills. I'm a jack of every trade, probably.
And you said spleen, throat, ajna, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Is it the 1648, or is it the?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes, yeah. It is.
And which channel to the ajna?
No, the ajna is not connected. That's my split. So you're currently 11
head
is where
and ajna.
Yeah, so head and ajna 63 and 4. Which is channel of logic, and then 4816, and that's pretty much it. I'm a very logical person and very left-brained, and that's the only 2 channels that I have, But then that's just just consistent. But there's other things.
My partner has the 63-4 as well. Whoa, that's having a defined head is almost as much as being a manifestor. It's very strong, right? Defined head's very, very strong energy.
Are you open undefined in your head?
Undefined head, yeah. Defined ajna, but my partner has a defined head, and she likes manifestors, and I think defined heads can't be pushed around so easy by manifestors. There's something very strong in that defined head. Yeah.
It's true. Everyone in my family, my husband and my daughter, we're all defined. We clash.
Oh my God.
Yes. We're all projectors as well. It's very interesting. 63-4 actually is a very interesting channel, because it's just something that can turn inwards on yourself, on all these what ifs, and it's just it's like broken record fixation on negative. I've went through years, and I didn't know about human design, didn't know about it, and now I live in the apartment with the big window, and in front of me there's this complex, like a business kind of center, and there's a building 63/4, and I literally every day remind myself not to go down this what ifs for me. It's just the universe kind of put it there permanently to remind me. But it's an even next level of conversation about the defined head versus, like you said, I just need a day that I'm just gonna not come out of bed. I'll get bored in bed. That's why I need my Netflix, Saturday Night Live, looking at something. It's completely just staring with vegetable mind, but you need to stimulate this busy mind. It's constantly buzzing.
I have a defined ajna, so I'll lie in bed, but I'll read or I'll watch TV or something. I rarely have the defined ajna, so I have at least that part similar to you. I rarely stop thinking. I sometimes talk about, like, a lot of the spiritual platitudes they talk about in the world, it's a lot of the generic stuff they put out in the world, generic marketing stuff, generic spiritual stuff.
Yes.
It's got no understanding of design, like this idea of like just meditate and quieten your mind. Not if you have a defined ajna. It
No.
doesn't shut up ever. Just be. Not if you have a defined root. If you have a defined root, I have a defined root. You're never just being. You're always doing. Even when I lie in bed, I'm still doing. There's a doingness. The defined root never stops. Also, it's another pressure center.
You're right. And it takes the next level of understanding. Even when you come to human design, and I know you're very in depth. I'm an enthusiast. I'm only learning. I feel like I'm only like scratching the surface, and still I already see how so much generic advice is out there. If you have an undefined G center, my pet hate. If you have an undefined G center or open G center, you cannot run a business as a personal brand. And I'm saying bollocks. You can absolutely do this because there's so many other factors and so many other things, but it's just like people putting us into boxes with these things. It's a very interesting conversation. Yes. So I want to also, maybe before we wrap up, and we're going to wrap up now, but I want to ask you for kind of like your maybe summary, maybe a blessing for someone who's a manifestor. What's the best way to approach their business in your and maybe you're summarizing what you already said. I don't know, but what would be a blessing from you? How would you initiate them into a more aligned way of running their business as a manifestor first?
Let me just think on that for a second. It's a good question because it really depends, emotional or ego manifestor. But what I would say is like, it's like you kind of have to just do it your way. You just have to do it your way. Trust the impulses, trust the urges, follow the urges, and don't try too hard when they're not there. It's like, if it's not there, it's not there. Sometimes I want to share one more little story because I see this in manifestors. Because I saw it in myself. I spent many years in kind of chronic, what I saw as chronic rhythmic depression, right? Chronic depression I'd constantly find myself in depressive states. Part of that was trauma, but also I believe a big part of that was not being able to honor the switching off of the ego, the rest cycles. And I spent a long time trying to work on my health, trying to supplement, functional medicine, trying to I didn't have enough energy. Sometimes I'd have no energy. I would try and do workout plans and I'd fail on them. And I try and start working on something and I can't follow through. And I'd always feel like I didn't have enough energy. And so I spent a long time trying to diagnose and figure out, how do I get more energy? What supplements do I take to get energy? How do I diet better? How do I heal myself? What I realized is it's just part of being a manifestor or a non-sacral, right? Non-sacral being is you just don't have as much energy, right? And so I see sometimes I see manifestors out there who are really trying to figure out, how do I get more energy, versus actually settling back and just being comfortable having less energy. Actually just be good with it, with the amount of energy you have, treasure it. And then when it comes like lightning, act. And when it's not like lightning, just don't worry about it so much.
Exactly. I think that there's so much pressure from the outside, on do, and again, generic concepts, work hard and do more. My daughter, to mention what you just described, is a mental projector, and she's permanently exhausted, and she's always pushing pressure on herself that she has no energy. That's a big point of anxiety and depression, but the answer is very simple. You just accept it. Do less. It's okay. You're not going to miss out. Life will be perfect for you in that rhythm, in that pace still. Yeah. And that's a beautiful advice.
I feel like mental projectors are designed to become masters of efficiency. So just become more efficient, That's what it's there for. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Damien, where would be the next step to get more into your world for our listeners?
How soon are you putting this out there?
It's going to be, okay. Let's not do anything time related, just in case, because I'm going to reuse this so much. It's going to be like literally in the automation so time related is not really good, but maybe something. I am thinking June. June.
Perfect. Great. And so, I don't know if you're leaving this in or not, but I just love, this is like, can I share one more thing? I never, so line one again, 4-1, line one. I'm learning to really love my line one. Like, I love my line one. I love the investigator in me. It's like, it's so delightful to want to go deep. And when I find something that fascinates me, I go really deep. I was anti-marketing for a long time. I hated the idea of marketing. And at some point I realized to grow my business, I had to learn marketing. And there was a point where I felt my line one go, okay, right. And now I'm obsessed with it. I read marketing books. I do courses on marketing. I'm constantly thinking as a marketer. And what I like and what you just said, we're having a little marketing conversation. When does it go out? Okay, because I'm planning my schedule of what things are available and everything, because we're talking like marketers, right? And we're on a marketing show. So I was just kind of like, that's just kind of fun.
I love that. I love that what you just said. I love that what you know what the key thing that I picked up immediately, and this is something that's really good. Guys, tune into this. Damien just said, I used to hate marketing, and then I decided I need marketing, right? So I decided to learn, which is if you have a line one, whether it's design or not, you will go and you will learn until you get it. You will learn until you get it. So you use the word foundations. For me, I usually feel like it's like the essence. Like when you get it, after that, you can even almost move on and never study this again. You just
and then I master. I can teach it now.
Yeah, exactly. And then that becomes, so it's a conscious choice. It's a choice that you're making, saying, okay, I hate it, or can I just like go into it and get it, or like get as much as I need? And I think there's so many people out there they just lead with this, oh, I hate marketing. And so they don't even give it a chance, but it could become something that you are really good at.
The thing that I had to come to accept is it's all marketing. Everything you buy, everything that's in your house exists in your house because it was marketed to you. You may think you have choice, but you only have choice of visibility. You're up there, visibility by design. The most visible choices are the ones you're going to go for. You click on the ad on Facebook when something pops up that's interesting to you. It's all marketing, right? And so if we want to actually put our value out in the world, we have to learn this. It's not going to go away while we have the current economic paradigm that we do. It's just not. So it's either like master it or be left behind, or, you won't be able to scale. So I just have an appreciation now for marketing that I never had before. And it's very creative, actually. It's a very creative art to market. It's because we're talking about human psychology here, right? So it's fascinating. Anyway, to answer your question.
That's exactly why I love it. Yes.
From June, it would be the website evolutionaryrelating.org. And by then, hopefully by the time you're listening to this, you'll be able to sign up for a new newsletter that I've got going on. So I've got stuff that I'm going to talk about that's in the pipeline that hasn't actualized yet, but there'll be a newsletter going on, and there'll be everything that you want to find out there about all my offerings.
Will it be still a love letter?
Probably not. I'm thinking of actually pivoting into a more thorough newsletter. So I'm actually really excited about this kind of a new marketing venture of I want to create a really high quality newsletter, something that people sign up to be every 2 weeks and just get a lot of value out of, and to centralize my social media all directed towards the newsletter, and that being actually the main first touch point of contact, along with warming email leads, warming email sequences. So that's kind of where I'm going right now. So that should be up by now, and it's gonna be, if you're there and you go to my website and you sign up for the newsletter, it's gonna be super high value, and you'll get a lot out of it, I am certain. And then you'll see everything else I have on offer from that one spot.
Awesome. I'm going to make sure that wherever you're watching this or listening to this, there's a button or a link in the description to get right into your website. Damien, thank you so much for being my lovely guest today. I really thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I loved the insights into the life of a manifestor. Some of them were big ahas to me. Some of them I could really relate. And I loved you sharing about a 4-1 profile as well, which is so rare. So it's kind of rare to even come across a person like that. And I know there's other elements. It's never I don't mean to put anybody in a box. Just because you're for one manifestor, that doesn't mean you a type, right? That doesn't mean that you are like everybody else is exactly like. There's so many more things and elements that make us unique. But there's a certain way to think about it and how you're showing up with the world.
Yeah, well, the bridging profiles are really interesting. My partner's a 3-6, so we're both bridging profiles. So we're both more of the rare. And, the motivation in all bridging profiles is innocence, right? So there's this like real innocence in people. 4-1s automatically have their motivation as innocence. So all the bridging profiles have this slight difference in them, that they're kind of they're one of the odd-sized eggs, So
yes,
I enjoy
love that.
I enjoy that about myself. So it's taken me a long time to get there. I did not for a long time. I felt very like I didn't fit in the world, but now I feel. Also, one more thing. It's really interesting because tonight I made the decision to switch off, and I felt my ego is actually like running out of energy in the interview, and I haven't had that before because I started the interview and I was kind of on, and I'm like, I can't feel as much oomph behind me as I normally have. So I just wanted to presence that as well. If you listen to the energy, you'll hear it dropping in me.
Oh, this is so interesting because I'm going to also have my insight. You said sometime during the interview that you wanted to switch off last night. You didn't want to finish your newsletter or whatever you were writing. You went to your partner.
Not tonight. Yeah.
And I thought to myself, and then you had the commitment with this recording.
That's right.
And we have to be very clear that it's very late at night where you are. So I appreciate that you stayed up. But because you really needed that charge, maybe that's the reason why the pulse was so small. And I didn't think that it in any way actually was noticeable. You still gave us so much value, and it was just absolutely wonderful conversation to have. But it is really interesting how maybe your mind overrode and maybe you should have rescheduled, but you didn't, and so the energy went down. But I don't know.
I really don't reschedule unless I have to. Generally, that's again the ego, like you said, the commitment. I was like, I said I'm coming, so I'm coming. That's what I do.
Love it. Well, you know what? In some serious situations, I would like to have you on my side. Because I'm so easy to cancel, and with my open will center, and just completely like reschedule and then go celebrate that I'm free again. From all the commitments. So but anyway, Damien, thank you again. And it was a wonderful, wonderful conversation. Guys, I will see you in the next episode of Visibility by Design. Bye.